the week, quote of the day. Love our enemies, it will drive them crazy. The book of Matthew, chapter 5, I'm going to tell you how to do it right here. Love our enemies, it'll drive them crazy. Listen, Matthew chapter 5, verse 44 says this. This is God speaking to us, straight from his word. These are the instructions. But I say to you, love, that is unselfishly, seek the best and higher good for your enemies, and pray for those who persecute you. Love your enemies and drive them crazy.
In spite of.
Right. That's straight to the point. Unselfishly. I mean, I can read it again. So, God says, but I say to you, those that's listening, we who are speaking, love, that is unselfishly, seek the best or higher good for your enemies and pray for them. Keep God involved in the situation. Pray. Talk to God about it. For those who persecute you. Those who persecute you. Persecute, let's think about this. You're doing something and you mean good. And somebody else perceive it different. And you keep persecuting. Oh. But you know what? I found out when it's a misunderstanding. See, if you let that love, that agape love, that love that's unconditional, be present, which is God in you, then when you get to the point where you feel like you're persecuted, you understand it's not coming from the person. The situation may seem like it's coming from the person, but it's actually a spirit. That's why we say love your enemies. He didn't say when he said enemies, you gotta identify that as a spirit. Because if you identify that as people, you have a lot of enemies, right? A lot of enemies. So in order to be able to identify something as a spirit and then be able to dominate the spirit with the spirit, meaning God's spirit can overpower Satan's spirit, because that's all it's saying. Let God's power in you, let God's spirit in you dominate the situation you're in, which is his love, which creates a whole different environment. Question, how you gonna operate in that? Get connected with Jesus.
And to go off that, just loving your enemies in spite of, it definitely is more of a spiritual thing than probably physical than you think. You have to really look at your enemies like how you love God. Your enemy might love God as well. You feel me? They might love God just as much as you. Might praise God just as much as you. So instead of looking at them like an enemy, look at them as a child of God. You feel me? And maybe that will soften the blow of like, dang, I would want somebody to love me like how God loving me in spite of, and even your enemy. You think your enemy doesn't get down on their knees and pray to the same God you do, So treat your enemy like a believer, like somebody who's a believer in what you believe in, and y'all may not see eye to eye on some things, but y'all do agree on connecting to the source. Y'all do agree in God and Jesus Christ. You feel what I'm saying? So if y'all had that agreement, it might be tough, but if you, like you said, focus on the spiritual aspect and not the human aspect, you might find out your enemy is a believer just like you. And y'all have more things in common by following God's path than what y'all have in common, which y'all beefing over something human. Because most of the time your enemy is something human that you're beefing over. It's not something really God having to do with God or anything like that. It's something personal, it's more personal. And like he said, most of the time your enemy, you see something in yourself that you don't like, and that's probably why it irritates you even more. Like, oh, I can't stand this person. It's something that God's telling you to look at yourself. If it's something, if you can point at another person and be like, I can't stand it with what they're doing, that's clearly God letting you know, you need to slow down and look at yourself. What are you doing? What are you bringing to the table instead of pointing at what else or pointing out what else somebody else did wrong? So love your enemies in spite of, and forgive your enemies too, because you can die with that unforgiveness in your heart and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good, man. So do the best you can. I know it's tough, but like my father said, you got to connect to the source to be able to prepare for that spiritual warfare you might have with a human being. And if you're not connected to the source, which is Jesus Christ, you're just going to have a rough road. And like you said, endless amount of enemies that you don't know how to really deal with.
Wise on my mind, and the thing I like about God, what He just explained to us to do, He already know that it's called divide and conquer. So if you're dealing with somebody that's another believer that understands what you understand, and the friction there, God knows that, Satan knows that too. So his whole objective is to divide and conquer. So he can use the feeling, emotion, situations to separate you. And he can conquer the situation. He can conquer the peaceful environment you live in. He can possibly conquer the joy that God gives you, the power that lives in you. He can distract that. Love your enemies. Drive them crazy.
Drive them crazy, loving your enemies. I'm telling you, that's if you really want to make your ops mad, make your enemies mad, show them love and support them. Or don't feed into whatever they got going on, but give it back to you. And you can say love, I'm gonna end it. Love, you can, like you say, love, it doesn't mean you have to deal with them, you know what I'm saying? It's just the fact that, hey, it's nothing but peace and love, and you come in peace when it comes to this person, because at the end of the day, when you come in peace, you're not talking about them, you're not trash talking them, trying to start something with them or something like that. You'll get the true peace. And your enemy might find true peace on how you move. If you moving with love, your enemy might even stop being your enemy because they see how you moving with love. They'll hate it so much, they'll start loving you and say, you know what? This dude ain't showed me nothing but love. He ain't do nothing towards me. Man, it's all good, man. Loving your enemies in spite of. You did, it'll drive them insane. You did. Love your enemies, man.